Yeah? Okay, let's do it. So, hey everyone, I'm Itai from Dynamic. We'll talk about that in a second. Just thank you for coming in today. Really what we're going to chat about, just so everyone knows, is essentially everything around embedded wallets, making embedded wallets invisible, and then how we give agents or AI agents wallets. So it's going to be a couple of fun topics. I'm sure everyone's excited. We'll start very quickly. Quick overview of why we're stuck with me. Who has heard about Dynamic before? Okay, great. Okay, by the end of the conversation, I guess everyone would have. But very quickly, I'm the co-founder. We focus on everything embedded wallets and wallet offering. And inherently what that means is a single SDK for everything wallet related. So that can be a Web3 login, that can be an embedded wallet type login, so email login, social login. It can be a bunch of components and UI tools, or it can be a fully headless, very API, very close to bare metal type tools, right? So we do all of that. You'll see a couple more in a second, but that's a little bit of context, just so folks know who we are. We've been around for about 3 years. We raised about $21 million from A16Z, Founders Fund, First Round Capital, etc. And we have some cool folks on the team. Very quickly, the way to think about us, and again, I'll get to the actual meaty stuff very, very quickly, but the way to think about us is we offer everything user management. So that can be embedded wallets, but that also means wallet linking. That means capturing information from users. So it's a kind of everything you need to know to manage your users on the site. And we have historically focused on human-based kind of crypto in the background, UI abstraction, right? We're moving to also focus on AI, kind of agent-based abstraction, but historically we focused on, okay, how do we make it really easy for humans to experience Web3 experiences, right? And you can see Dynamic today on a bunch of sites. So if you go to Magic Eden and you log in, by the way, with email starting this week as well, or connect multiple wallets to the same account, that's powered by us. If you go to Arena on Avalanche and you log in with Twitter and you get a wallet, that's powered by us. If you go to Sofon and experience a global wallet within their ecosystem, that's powered by us. You can see it on Berachain, you can see it on Say, on Story Protocol. All those websites use Dynamic. So we get to work with a bunch of really cool folks. If you've used Legion, for instance, to kind of get access to early deals, that uses Dynamic, and you've gotten a Dynamic wallet, you have likely used Dynamic at one point. We've had over 75 million sessions in the last year using Dynamic. It's live on EVM and God forbid non-EVM chains, but let's ignore the non-EVM chains for this conversation, given it's an EVM conference. So we'll start with less dynamic shilling and more to our actual point, right? So AI agents have pretty much kind of taken over the conversation, right? The idea would be that over time, we become more lazy and we get AI agents to do some of the work for us, right? Book a trip, buy stock, or do things we haven't thought about, right? And it's very easy that we give them wallets, right? It makes sense that they don't just have access to information, but they can actually take action and get wallets, right? But you have these AI agents perform a bunch of these tasks, and they need some sort of way to act on them, whether it's waiting on my behalf for Taylor Swift tickets. Who is a Taylor Swift fan, by the way? Thank you, I appreciate it. You're going to get more references in this conversation than you should. But it's natural that we give them those wallets, right? There are really two paths to giving AI agent wallets. The first one is human in the middle, meaning I want to perform a task, I assign the task to an agent, and at that point the agent gets some sort of delegated permissions from me to accomplish that task with a wallet. They end that task and they give me back the resulting kind of purchase, whatever. And the second approach is just AI agents with no human in the loop, in the sense that I wake up in the morning, there's an agent running in the background, it does continuous tasks for me, and it just continues on a day-to-day basis. And we'll cover both of those. But the challenge is essentially, for AI agents to work, we got to give them these really fine-grained permissions, right? You can't, if you go on ChatGPT and it hallucinates the wrong answer, that's fine, right? You can double check it, you can confirm. If it hallucinates buying something that it shouldn't, or spending $1 million, that's really not okay, right? And so you need to give agents very fine-grained permissions in order to actually execute on this type of stuff. And so for that, and this is where we take a step back, to get AI agent wallets right, we actually had to take a step back and think about how do you get key management right? What are the core things you have to do in order to build for this future world? And that's where we have a first announcement of the day. We had to rethink how we do kind of our key management infra. And so today we're essentially announcing a new key management infrastructure for Dynamic, which is threshold signature MPC-based infrastructure. Now, as I continue to explain this, who has heard of MPC? Great. Who has heard of threshold signatures? Okay, that's awesome. Okay, great. So let's actually dive into what that is. So for those that don't know what MPC is multi-party computation, meaning we collaborate together in order to get a resulting computation. What threshold signature MPC is kind of a more advanced version of MPC, where a private key in the case of key management never exists. Meaning I have a share, a server has a share, an agent potentially has a share, and we collaborate. It's distributed, it's generated in a distributed way, and we collaborate to sign without a private key ever being exposed. So you can start doing really sophisticated key signing mechanisms without ever exposing a private key or without a private key ever existing. Now, historically, these have been really slow. So you would use them on a Fireblocks, which works well when you're trying to move $10 million and you're fine waiting 10 seconds, but they do not work very well on a thing that needs to happen really, really quickly at scale on a consumer app. And so they've been kind of in the background for a while, but over the last couple months and years, we've started to see a lot of MPC progress to get it up to speed, and that's where we get the dynamic TSS MPC. So let's look at a very quick demo of what that looks like. So this is more the bare metal version of this, right? So I can create a bunch of these different iterations of shares. I can do a 2 out of 2. I can create an EVM, a Solana wallet, an SVM wallet. I can do a more sophisticated 2 out of 3. I can do a 3 out of 5. So that's 5 shares, 3 needed to sign. I can start creating these really interesting iterations that are important in the next part of the talk around Itai agents. I can do more sophisticated stuff. So I can refresh shares in case one share gets compromised, or I can reshare the entire thing. So I can start with a 2 out of 2 share setting, and I can move to a 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5, right? So that flexibility is really important for that next part of the talk, which is how do we get AI agents to have shares of wallets? And we had to rebuild the entire key management infrastructure to get that right. If you want to see a detailed demo of this, by the way, this is kind of really quickly adding a new wallet. You can add a 3 out of 5. You can do more sophisticated stuff around import and export. All that type of stuff we kind of handle. If you want to see a demo of that, come find us after, come to our booth. But we had to get that right? So very quickly, architecture-wise. We've built a hyper-flexible solution, right? It's non-custodial. It can do a bunch of these key shares. It leverages trusted execution environments for the server side, so with the dynamic side of this. So signing happens in trusted execution environments. And it can work client-side for human-in-the-loop type interactions, or server-side for servers-to-server, machine-to-machine type interactions, right? What that means is we can get agents, key shares with very limited permissions, and we'll see this architecture in a bit. You can get key shares with very limited permissions and hold the dynamic or the server share to a rule engine for when to countersign or co-sign, right? So you can start building these really sophisticated flows based on this architecture. But before we dive into AI agents, and I think that's the third time I said before we dive into AI agents, we'll get there. This lets us kind of change how we do human-type interactions. So log in with email, log in with Google, etc. Right? So we have a few options. So at the very basic level, we offer a 2 of 2 setup, meaning a human wakes up in the morning, they go to arena.app or any one of those sites, and they log in. They get a key share on their end. Dynamic has a server share on its end, and Dynamic also stores an encrypted version and a backup version of that key share. So if I go to a second browser, I have an automatic recovery in the background. So for a user, it's seamless. It's the same as the experience of logging in with an email today and getting a wallet. But you get all these kind of advanced things back. But again, as we said, it can graduate to a more sophisticated flow automatically. So I can create a second key recovery that I store on Google Drive or iCloud with one click. Or I can even do a more sophisticated type recovery where one share is stored on the developer site, one share is stored on Dynamic, and then 3 shares or 2 shares are stored with the user. So you can start building these really sophisticated key management type flows very, very quickly. And it's rolling out in the coming weeks. So if anyone wants early access, reach out to us. But with that, let's actually finally talk about AI agents. So not sure if you heard, AI agents are all the rage. I really hope we get to a point where we wake up in the morning and we have a bunch of these agents working for us. There are lots of cool frameworks out there to manage AI agents, to manage Web3 AI agents. I'm actually not going to talk about them. I'm just going to focus on the key management part and how key management changes and how it should be structured for this. So as we talked about, there are really 2 ways to do this: human in the loop and no human in the loop. The human in the loop one is the following. By the way, the point of this deck is really just to show memes and GIFs. So if you got nothing else away from this deck and you got some good memes, hopefully that made your day better. But very quickly, the goal of a human in the loop type AI agent is to help with everyday tasks. I want to book a flight. I want to trade stocks. I want to start moving things from one place to another. I want to kind of renew my passport. All that type of activity is a human in the loop. I wake up in the morning, I have access to a wallet, I delegate some sort of permissions, the agent takes care of them, and comes back with the results. So let's walk through a flow. So user goes to an AI travel agent website. They define some parameters on the trip. So let's say my budget, where I'm going, etc. The AI agent gets a key share. So the user issues that AI agent a second key share. So we move from a 2 of 2 to a 2 of 3. At that point, the AI agent can countersign with a server to actually execute on things. The server can limit what can be countersigned with a rule engine. And then the agent books a trip, and the human goes on vacation and thinks about how weird the world is becoming. The way that works on the dynamic side is the following. So a user gets a user share, right? I logged in with an email, I logged in with Google, I got a share. And I can issue this temporary share to the agent and define some permissions in the rule engine as to what this agent can do. Right? And at one point, I can destroy that extra share. I can reshare, right? I can redo the sharing, get a new share so the old thing the agent has is no longer relevant, and continue on my day. So I can start doing that a bunch of times, right? Now, there's a second type activity, which is no human in the loop, right? We're used to UIs, we're used to logging in, but agents do not need to do that, right? There's no real reason why an agent has to actually have a UI or why they need a UI component at all. And for that, we need lower level server-side SDK, so a Node SDK, in the future a Python SDK, in order to let agents interact with wallets directly. And the flow there is slightly different, right? So an agent wakes up in the morning. Obviously, agents need to drink coffee too. They monitor a market. They find some sort of opportunity. They ask the server for a share. They generate the share locally, essentially. They generate a server share. They get some sort of permissions, allocation of funds. They execute on the tasks. Human get ongoing reports. And again, human doesn't need to do anything. Right, so the idea here is actually taking it a step further from an assistant to a fully autonomous type experience. Right, and you can do that with more sophisticated server-to-server and machine-to-machine type interactions. And that's why, by the way, we're launching this Node SDK, and again, in the future, things like a Python SDK, etc., that let agents live in their machine-to-machine environment without needing to deal with UI. And in that scenario, there's really no human, right? So an agent independently generates a key share. Again, MPC, there's no moving of shares, but rather a key share is generated here, a key share is generated here, and there's some rule engine that actually, is this like an, oh wow, this is an actual screen. There's some sort of rule engine that controls what can be signed and what can't be signed. Right? So you can do this in a really nice, flexible way. And again, there's a relay that communicates, just so everyone's clear on TSS MPC, there's a relay that communicates information, but it actually doesn't move any key material. Right? The key material stays here as one share, and the second share that stays here. Right? So you have that ongoing security in a really nice way without any kind of interaction in the middle. So over time, we'll probably have this combination of both type of agents. And in both cases, I really hope that just means less work for us. Right? I really hope we just wake up every morning, reflect on how weird the world is becoming, and do less work as a result of this. I will make one shameless plug, given that we're in a kind of a ETH conference. Who's heard of 7702? Okay, so who's heard of account abstraction? Perfect. Okay, so for those that don't know, and again, 2 takeaways from today should be meme coins first, 7702 second, trusted execution environment, and TSS MPC third. But on the second one, there's a change coming in the upcoming Ethereum update, which lets you bind an EOA address to a smart contract. So essentially, you can log in over the next couple months with your MetaMask and do gasless transactions or batch transactions. Right? That works the same for embedded wallets, meaning I've spun up an embedded wallet for an agent, and that agent should be able to benefit from trustless or gasless type execution or batch execution, just like a human would. So that is a change that's coming up. The reason I say account abstraction, it's based on the same, how am I doing? Oh, 3 minutes, perfect. It's based on the same account abstraction type contracts, but sits not in front or on top of kind of an EOA, but rather next to it as a rule engine. So that's coming up. That's going to be really exciting. So with that, let's summarize. So we talked about a bunch of things, right? We talked about why AI agents are cool. We talked about our new TSS MPC offering, right? And all the cool things you can do with very flexible, low-level key management that we now offer. We talked about the 2 paths for AI agents, right? Human in the loop and no human in the loop. And we talked about how we can do less things, right? But and I'll end with this, which is we're in the business of giving tools to developers. If you were to tell me, hey, here's the types of experiences that will be built on top of Dynamic 2 years ago, I would have told you you're crazy, right? We've had Lamborghini build on top of Dynamic, and we have Doodles build and McDonald's build on top of Dynamic, and we had anywhere in between those, right? And those are things we couldn't have predicted, and the types of experiences we couldn't have predicted. And so really what we're trying to aim for at Dynamic is to give tools in very low level and very close to the metal tools, as well as very abstracted UI components for folks to build stuff we haven't thought about. And so while I really hope that, the next time there's a Taylor Swift concert, I actually, instead of standing in line on Ticketmaster, I get an agent to do that. That's a great use case. I really hope that the next set of use cases that are built with AI agents actually we did not think about, right? And are completely abstracted away. And that's why I ask that if you have cool ideas for ways to experiment with AI agents, come talk to us. We want to hear about them. We want to start building a subset of tools that help you create these experiences that couldn't exist today and look like nothing like what's out there today. And with that, thank you. If you want to reach out to me, if you have questions, that's my Telegram, that's my email. We have a booth tomorrow. Again, shameless plug. If you want early access, come talk to us. If you want to play around with Dynamic in general, come talk to us. If you want swag, come talk to us. And besides that, very much appreciated. Thanks, everyone.